Daily Devotion with Pastor Balla for August 7th, 2020. From 2 Samuel chapter 15, David brings Absalom back. King David wanted his son back, but how do you bring back someone who murdered one of the king's sons? Absalom was in self-imposed exile. Joab, David's military commander, had a plan to bring Absalom back, and it worked. Verse 21, Then the king said to Joab, Behold now, I grant this. Go, bring back the young man, Absalom. So King David gets Absalom back, all because Joab, David's military commander, came up with a beautiful plan. But then, what does Absalom do once he returns home? Chapter 15, verse 1. After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run before him. Well, fair enough, he was and is the king's son, so yes, he would have a nice chariot and people, servants to go with him. Verse 2. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And when any man had a dispute to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call to him and say, From what city are you? And when he said, Your servant is of such and such a tribe in Israel, Absalom would say to him, See, your claims are good and right, but there is no man designated by the king to hear you. Then Absalom would say, Oh, that I were judge in the land. Then every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, and I would give him justice. As you can probably tell, Absalom was trying to gain the favor of the people, and he was doing so by usurping the authority of the king. Is this how you pay back King David? Absalom should have been killed for killing the king's son, even though Absalom was one of the king's sons. Absalom now is repaying the mercy of King David with more sin. Verse 6, Thus Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment, and Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. It worked. Absalom stole the hearts of the people. Instead, Absalom should have been pointing the people back to David, but he didn't. Verse 7, At the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, Please let me go and pay my vow, which I vowed to the Lord in Hebron. For your servant vowed a vow while I lived at Geshur in Aram, saying, If the Lord indeed will bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will offer worship to the Lord. But Absalom sent secret messengers throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then say, Absalom is king at Hebron. With Absalom went 200 men from Jerusalem who were invited guests, and they went in their innocence and knew nothing. Verse 12. And while Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor from his city of Galon. And the conspiracy grew strong, and the people with Absalom kept increasing. You may remember that while King Saul was alive, many people wanted David to step up and to be the king. David was anointed by God to be the king, but David waited until King Saul died. Absalom, one of the king's sons, and you could say he could have been one of the future kings, did not want to wait until the time when King David died, but developed a plan to usurp the authority of the king and to take the throne for himself. Join me again tomorrow as we find out that David is now on the run. God's peace and many blessings be with you. Thank you for watching, and please share this video with others. If you have enjoyed these daily devotions, please consider making a donation to Peace Lutheran Church, 24024 West Main Street, Plainfield, Illinois, 60544. Thank you again for watching.